Hello, everybody. This is Howard, the Teaserking, coming to you with week 15 of the college, whatever you want to call it. It's like college league championship week, which this should be the first week of the playoff. This should be your top two teams from each division, and some don't get it right, some do, should be playing each other. The winner is in the playoff. Actually, this is week one of the playoffs. You've got all your conferences. The winners advance. Boise advances. Florida Atlantic. Whoever wins their conference should get automatically in. That would give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That would give you 20 teams in the playoffs. That would give you 10 winners. And then no, there's no bitching. Like now, how's Alabama going to get in with 5 losses? But they'll find a way because they really want Alabama to win every year, and they put them in just the first. Obviously, some payoff or something, because it just doesn't matter. It doesn't make any sense. But we're not going to schedule anybody good, and then we'll lose, and we'll be the best one-loss team because we haven't played anybody the whole year. And then we'll get blown out by Clemson by 50 points. This year, I would have loved to have seen Ohio State just light them up like LSU did, only Ohio State's defense would just shut them down. Anyway, big problems with this stupid playoff system. I mean, it's like, could you imagine the NFL with 4 teams in the playoffs? Like, seriously? Anyway, I like to pat myself on the back. 21-1 last week. Hit my lock, which was San Diego and Ohio State. Gave you Ohio State on the video. Also the Ohio State over I gave you. The Thanksgiving games. Everybody had a good Thanksgiving. A couple of winners there. So I was very happy for all my customers and friends and all the people that made money off of my predictions. And just red hot. It's what I talk about when you get pocket aces and they hold up. That's what last week was. There were so many good games, in college, Washington and Nebraska and San Jose State, and you just go down the list. Ohio State. It was like a joke. It was like, oh, here's a good dog. I'll play them. Here's a good dog. Here's a good favorite, and everything happened the way it should. I even won with freaking. Missouri over Arkansas. Arkansas is terrible. They lost to San Jose State. I'm figuring Missouri's going to kill them. They're only laying 12 or 10 or something. I'm laying 6. Missouri plays like shit and they win by 10. There you go. But it was an easy win. I was betting against Arkansas. So, I mean, that's all. That's a lot of what I'm doing is looking at the 30-point defense. If I got a good offense, boom. I did stay away from Michigan State, Maryland, and Rutgers. Penn State. It was these 40-point spreads are just ridiculous. It's the casino saying we don't want you to put any money on it because nobody's laying 40, and nobody can take 40. So it's just a dead line. The casino's point of view should be to get even betting on the game, but you got to get betting on the game. You can't bet it so nobody bets the game, and that's what they're doing in a lot of these games. Anyway, so very hot. Very small size this week, and there's quite a few college games I like, but I'm going to give you what I think is probably the most easy game on the board, and I'm going to take Clemson minus 28.5 against Virginia. And Clemson hasn't played anybody all year. They haven't had one good team. They barely beat North Carolina. Somehow that happened. But Virginia knows they're in trouble. Or Clemson knows they're in trouble. Ohio State's the best team. LSU's right with them. That'll be a great championship game. And the only way Clemson can avoid being the 4 seed or out, they got to win, and they got to win by a lot. If they lose this game, they're out. If they win it by 7, they're going to be the 4 seed because it's Virginia. So Clemson has to dominate this game and put up a big number with hopes of being 1 or 2 and making sure they win, because if they lose, they're out. There'll be one loss, and they'll have played an Alabama schedule, which included nobody. At least Alabama played LSU and Auburn. They lost them both, but at least they had 2 decent teams on their schedule. Clemson's had none. They didn't have one good team on their schedule. And I just hate that these teams get rewarded for scheduling high school teams and beating them like whoopee. So really, a lot of Clemson stats you can't really count on. They don't mean anything. But let's take a look at what we do know. So they scored 45 a game, gave up 10, 500 yards of offense, again against not very good teams. Let's look at the best team in the best defense is Miami of Florida, and they lost to Florida International. And Pittsburgh, and I don't even know if Clemson played them. Most of the conference gives up between 25 and 35 points a game. There's 5 teams they give up over 30, and Wake gives up 29, and then Florida State 28. So to put up 45 a game against these clowns is a joke, but Virginia's one of those clowns. Now Virginia scores 33 a game, gives up 23. I don't know how they score 33. Their quarterback's just one of these running quarterbacks. If you look at Clemson's offense, they get 540 yards a game. Virginia only 390. Virginia can't really run the ball. They only get 128 a game. They throw for 260. So, put it in proper perspective. Once Clemson gets up 20 points, they're just going to lay out the quarterback and just roll here. Let's look at the quarterback. The ACC, Mr. Clemson. So Clemson's Trevor Lawrence, 30 touchdowns, 8 picks, 239 a game, but they have a good running back, so they got balance. They got a good defense. Let's look at Virginia's Bryce Perkins, 245 yards a game, 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That ratio is terrible. I mean, you only got 16, and you gave up 9, and you only run for 120, so I don't know where their 33's coming from. Must be a lot of special team touchdowns, which you can't count on in this type of game. And let's look at the numbers. So this game is in North Carolina, I believe. So that makes Clemson a road favorite. 3-1 is a road favorite this year. 9-1 against the number. Clemson covers. 1-3 against. Clemson covers and doesn't leave anybody back. Virginia 3-0 is a road dog. 2-1 against. 7-3 is, I think, nothing really there. Let's look at 19 and 18. That's about all you can do in college. Maybe you go back to 17, but generally that's about it. Clemson 9-2 is a road favorite. 21-3 against the number for 2 years. 88%. Bingo. That's what we're looking for. Virginia 7-1 is a road dog, so they might keep it within some distance. 5-3 against, but I mean you're laying 28, so with 35 points, maybe Virginia can stay within 35, but take it down to 22. And I love the 21-3 against the number by Clemson, and they're mostly laying 28 to 30 points a game. They know they need to look good for the playoff. That's a given, and they're going to pound them. So you can get 28, 28 and a half. I do like the over-under of 55 in this game also. I mean, there's some of these games, I mean, like Ohio State, I think's over, and I think Clemson's over, and LSU, Georgia. That'll be a hell of a game. I'm really deciding which way to go in that game because I like LSU. I think they'll win. But Georgia, very strong team, good dog. They're not going to fall, they're not going to fall down either. So I think this would be a tight game, LSU, Georgia. Probably an over with LSU's passing. I don't know. See, that's a much harder over-under to call. Here, Clemson puts up probably 50 because they got to impress. Virginia should get 10 or maybe 20 points at the most. But this will be one of the games Clemson just gets out and rolls. Um, so not a lot. Um, should be a pretty good week. Mostly in the pros. I don't know, a lot, 5 or 6 games. I'll come up with a lock. I see a couple of games I want to lock. Um, and that's about it. So it's been very strong the last 5 or 6 weeks. You always have that one road bump when you don't get, and again I go back to poker, if you don't get the cards you can't win. I mean, you can bluff once in a while, but if you get lousy games, you can't. That's why you can't win every week. You force games that you shouldn't play, but you got to find games to play. So you play a 9-8 of diamonds when you shouldn't be playing it. But then you get a week like last week when you lift your cards up. It is aces, ace, king, kings, queens, aces again. That's So sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. So that's what you look for. But last week was aces. This week, a lot of aces. I think in these college games, I probably can find 6 or 7 of them that are fairly pocket jacks, pocket tens, maybe a pocket queens game, and in the pros a lot of 7 or 8 real strong ones. But should be very good. Like I said, the pros I got zeroed in. I gave San Francisco in my pro video. See, in the beginning of the year, you can't trust San Francisco. You don't know who they are. And this is what's so crazy about the NFL now. It takes you, now it's 12 games. It took me about 10 games to discover if San Francisco was any good or not. And they finally beat Carolina, and shutting out Green Bay is what clinched it for me, because they shut out the Rams, and they killed Carolina. But then they go and lose to the Seattle, and then they shut out Green Bay. And then now you're bingo. Now you're like, okay, they really do have a good defense. I think Richard Sherman's running the Seattle defense for them. And their offense is, they run, they got the tight end, the quarterback's okay, he's not hurting them, you got a good coach. So now you can play. But see, normally in the good old days, in the 70s and the 80s, you'd bet the Steelers every week, you'd bet the Raiders, you'd bet the Cowboys, the Vikings. You knew what you had. They were there for 5-6 years. Look at the Steelers. Basically from 72 to 80, it was gold. It was just gold. I mean, you had them, and you knew what you were going to get. You knew they were going to win. The point spreads were what they were, but you knew, okay, we can get them. And then here comes the Niners and the Bears and the Giants in the 80s and Jimmy in the 90s. And before that, at Miami, Jimmy, where I won a fortune betting those games. But you don't have that now. I mean, there's so many coaching changes and so many quarterback changes. I've never seen Nick Foles, Philadelphia, wins him a Super Bowl, now he's in Jacksonville. And he sucks in Jacksonville. And you just got quarterbacks moving all around. They bring in these kids that have no business playing quarterback, like the kid on Washington, Haskins. He's got no business playing it. Granted, the guy got hurt, but you got to do what Mahomes did at least. Sit out the first year. You maybe play the last game, and it doesn't mean anything. Then you get the off season, and then you start working it in. To play these guys the first year is ridiculous. First of all, the other teams get tape on them and know what the secrets are. And secondly, they're not very good. They maybe played 2 years in college, which, okay, that's not the pros, the speed. You don't get wide receivers wide open, or you can't run an offense where, excuse me, where there's 4 wide receivers, and you just dink and doink to them, and they're wide open. Because the pros, it's not like that. So that's the problem, and they're rushing the guys in that half of them can't play, i.e. Josh Allen at Buffalo and Darnell at the Jets. I mean, what are you doing, man? This guy should be on the bench for a year or two, and then you start bringing them in, and you see what happens. But that's the problem. So you're really hunting for teams you can trust and teams that are good for a while. I mean, the more data on a team, and now you know you can trust them. That's what you want. But there's so much change. You get very little data on Darnell and Allen and Miami and Washington and all these coaching changes. It's whoever's running these teams is clueless. They don't know what they're doing. They see they bring in these coaches that are help the quarterback. That's not the. You've got to run the ball and play defense. That's how you win. You don't win with a quarterback. Okay, Joe Montana did not win unless he had a strong defense and Roger Craig or the first year. Okay, he kind of threw short little passes, which was running, which is what New England does. They don't run, but they short pass you, which is basically a running game. And that's the only way you win. You cannot be a passing team and win. Once you get inside the 20, you can't pass for a touchdown. You don't rest your defense if you score too quickly. So, I mean, basically, it's not good. So, college, you can see Clemson's been around. Alabama's making the same mistake. They're becoming a passing offense. They can't run the ball. They can't play. Their defense sucks when they play good teams. And so if they continue to try to put up 50 points a game and have this high-flying passing, they'll never win again because they're not going to rest their defense. And these other teams that can throw, like LSU, lit them up for 50 points because they've never had a good secondary. Alabama would just play bad quarterbacks who just ran the ball, who couldn't really throw. And that's why they would lose to Johnny Manziel and Kelly. They could throw the ball, but LSU didn't have a quarterback for years, and Mississippi State had Prescott who can't throw. He's a good running back. So you had all this non-really throwing quarterbacks, so it kind of hid Alabama's weakness, which is their second. Like they block the run, but you can kill them with a good passing attack. So now you're seeing LSU light them up, and I'm really happy about that. Anyway, take Clemson, lay the points. www.teaserking.com. I wish you had a happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, and make you some money for Christmas. And good luck to everybody this week. Stay warm and happy. Have a great weekend. www.teaserking.com.